Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. It's the podcast where we have digital discussions from the worlds of sports, social media, and pop culture. Really happy to be joined by an Olympic bronze medalist and a member of Canada's national women's soccer team. We're with Ashley Lawrence. Ashley, welcome to Popternative.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And all the way from France, because you're playing with PSG. How's the season been going?
It's been going great. We're actually approaching kind of midway. So I'll be having the holiday break coming up. So we've been doing well. We're currently in second place, and we have a big match next week against Lyon. They're in first place, so things have been going good.
That's awesome. So let's go way back. Let's start it off. Like, when did you first decide that you wanted to play soccer? At a very young age? Were you kind of a late bloomer with soccer? Like, when did that all start?
Well, I started playing soccer when I was 5 years old, and I continued for many years. Just the love of the game, it remained. But for me, I distinctly remember at 14 years old, I was called into the provincial program, and that was a program that had the best players in Ontario. So you had to try out, and it was very competitive. While I was there, a few times a week, we were really, pushed in many different ways. But for me, even though it remained more competitive, the love for the game was still there. And it's just ever since then, that was kind of my pathway to the full national team. And even at that age, I remember getting invited to the U17 World Cup, and I was super young. And there was a last-minute injury on the roster, and they called me in. I was terrified. I was bawling my eyes out, but I had my family there to support me and push me. Like they said, you're going no matter what. That experience changed my life. And the following U17 World Cup, I was the captain. And just a huge testament to having to be a part of that program and just being out of my comfort zone. But the love of the game always remained.
No, absolutely. You mentioned like competitive, and I find being competitive and close games, and I find that interesting because I work in sports as well. There's a lot of there's kind of the situations. Obviously, everyone wants to win, but you talk to everyone, and their favorite games are kind of like they're very close games that can kind of go either way, right? It's one of those things where did you like, even without soccer, were you always kind of like a competitive person, or was it kind of like, did you want to kind of be part of kind of a game where you can kind of where it was going to kind of be very close and there's going to be a lot of strategy involved? Was like a competitive activity always something you wanted to
do? Definitely for me, I find that I'm a competitive person, and I love a challenge. So it's great to win games, and I feel like that's always a goal. But to be able to play in kind of those high stake games in a World Cup, in Olympics, that's really what you train for. That's what you dream of. You can't really describe like the atmosphere, having like a sold out crowd, but playing against the best in the world, that's really the reason why you train and wake up every day. So I love to win. I love having those victories, but those are the games that you really wake up to play for.
And you mentioned the Olympics. You have won a bronze medal representing Canada at the Olympics in Rio. I mean, how? I know it's a bit of like a little question, but it's like, how was that experience? I mean, is there anything specifically from that experience that you took away that kind of stands out from all the other like learning experiences? I'm sure like the atmosphere was insane, kind of being a part of those games. Like, I mean, there's a lot of questions I'm throwing your way here, but I mean, how do you even like get prepared for something like that?
Well, I think it was my second major tournament with Team Canada. My first one was at the World Cup, just a year before the Olympics. So it was a bit of a quick turnaround for me, and it was actually interesting because the coach had asked me to consider playing fullback, which is defense. And growing up throughout my career, I've always been an attacker. I've always been a midfielder or a forward. So initially, I was kind of thrown back because I've never played that position, and I had to put in a lot of work. And with the help of teammates and John Herdman, the coach, and the staff, I was really able to be prepared for the Olympics. So that was a little bit of a roadblock for me, just because it's something I'm not used to. But with the team, we had this shared mindset that it was a team first mentality. No matter what you did, it was for the team. And come Olympics, we were ready and we were prepared. So the experience itself was incredible. Like every day, whenever I think about it, there's just a new memory that pops up. But being there was the Olympic Village filled with all the athletes from different countries. I got to meet Usain Bolt. So
Oh
when
wow.
I when that happened, I was like, all right, well, I can leave now. Like my life is made. So, but yeah, it was really cool. We got to travel around Brazil, play different games, and two matches that really stuck out to me were the first game against Australia. We actually were hit with adversity early on when we lost one player to a red card. So we were down a man for majority of the game, but we really came together collectively, and it showed our connection, and we were able to pull out the victory. And that was kind of the start of just a really special campaign. And moving through the Olympics, Canada, slowly fell in love with us, and we love their support. And on to that last game against Brazil, the atmosphere was crazy because it was in Brazil. It was like 40 to 50,000 fans just screaming, and we were able to get that victory. And for myself, it was just an experience that really formed me as a player because I was 21 years old at the time, but I really felt like I was a leader.
No, absolutely. Yeah, you were very young to do that. And I find the hype from Canada's national women's soccer team, I mean, they became kind of like a fan favorite in our country um uh starting in like London, like the London Olympics as
Oh,
well,
for sure.
right? And it was so how did it feel to kind of be part of a team that had to kind of follow that up? Must
Yeah,
have been pretty insane.
it was pretty insane. It was surreal because I mean, I was watching the Olympics at home, like with my family. I distinctly remember like watching Canada versus US. No one will ever forget that game.
No.
But then watching Canada win a bronze medal at home, like screaming, and that was kind of like it ignited a fire in me because I told myself I want to play for Canada. I want to be in a World Cup and an Olympics. So those girls really did an amazing job at inspiring me and inspiring a generation, future generations. And then to then be in that environment with Christine St. Clair, my idol, and other players, Diana Matheson, it was just a surreal thing. But now it's really cool because I'm kind of in a place where I can influence and kind of empower other players that look up to me.
That yeah, no, that's amazing. But I find the storylines were a lot different as well because there was kind of more. I mean, one can argue that at like your squad in Rio, because of what happened, that say what you want, like in London, like a little bit of the kind of like a underdog story, right? Because there was a lot of like people weren't expecting um, as much, but then in Rio there was more expectations about the team. How were you and your teammates able to kind of control kind of the hype and everything? Because that a lot of people I know around my like family and friends were talking about like that was like the one sport they wanted to watch, like Canada's women's soccer team. That was like in Rio, that was like on our calendar. All the games were circled. Did that ever come to mind, or was there so much other things to think about that you didn't just think about how much kind of hype and expectations there were about it?
Well, I think for me growing up, there wasn't much coverage on the women's team.
Yeah.
So London was really that first, glimpse of the coverage, and you saw like, especially once we won, Canada really bought into that team, and the support has been amazing ever since. I think moving into Rio, the support was there, but for sure there was an expectation from fans, from kind of external sources. But I think for us as a team, we really embraced it, and we kind of turned it into like a spirit that pushed us. So For us, we kind of put the expectation on ourselves, but we don't take on too much that is out of our control. So in Rio, it was more of us having that expectation that we are at a different level, and our eyes, our target is on number one. So there has been a shift, and it's really exciting. And I think it's from that London to Rio, but it's really with us as players how we have just improved and really, yeah.
No, absolutely. And mentioned in the beginning of the show, You're a Canadian that's playing in Europe. You're playing in France. You play for PSG. What made you decide to play soccer or football in Europe? Like, what was kind of the deciding factor there?
Excuse me. Well, for me, growing up, I love to watch games, like every day with my family. Whenever there was a game on, through Bundesliga, La Liga, Premier League, I just love it. It's a joy to me. It's so much fun. So, when I actually had that opportunity, I couldn't pass it by. It's a different culture in Europe, and you see it, soccer, football, as they call it, but I wanted to be a part of it, and I knew that it would be a challenge for me. In France, in particular, it's there were some barriers with the language, the culture,
Oh, yeah.
and just the way of life. It's different. I'm away from my family and friends, so I knew that it would be a challenge, but it was something that I wanted to go towards for my development as a player, but also person.
Oh, that's interesting. As a person, I like that because you're gonna kind of take that whole experience with you and adapt into everything, and it goes beyond just being on the field, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, for me, I always want to be challenged on the field, and I think that it's cool that I'm able to be with PSG and with Canada Soccer because they both present different
Oppor-
advantages and
Opportunities.
opportunities. Yeah, for sure.
No,
So.
absolutely. Um, and do you kind of still see yourself kind of representing Canada when you're down there? I mean, it's one of those things where, like I said, the culture, the landscape, it's completely different. Do you always kind of um, see yourself as representing Canada every time you're there, or is it doesn't come to mind and it's all about PSG?
For sure. It's cool because there's many cultures here on the team, like from Sweden, Germany, Poland, Spain. So, um, to learn about different cultures and for them to want to learn about me, I
Hmm.
always have that Canada pride. And while I'm here, I also go to camps with Canada kind of almost every month. So I'm able to check in with the team and connect back in. And it's nice to, still have both environments to really thrive. But for me, I think regardless if I'm with my professional team, I always have in the back of my mind the World Cup and Olympics, and now it's 1 year away and 2 years away, and it's always that kind of motivation at the back of my mind. But it's always there
No,
for sure.
absolutely. It's always
Yeah.
going to be there. And like I said, it's interesting because you're young and you've already had a experience to play for Canada. You've won a bronze medal, so it's like the future is for sure bright. I mean, we'll wrap up soon, but one last question. Pop Turnative is kind of like a social media centric show. We always like to kind of ask, our athletes that we have on the show kind of about how they kind of deal with the landscape of social media. We kind of see that social media can kind of play kind of like the double-edged sword life and kind of like an athlete's life where there's a lot of kind of pros about it, but there's some cons as well. It could be kind of distracting. As Ashley Lawrence, a, uh, a professional soccer player, how do you kind of tackle social media in your everyday life? Is it a big part of it? And how do you think it's affecting athletes?
So I mean, I feel like social media is a part of all of our lives, no matter what, if we like it or not. And I feel like as athletes, we have a platform and a responsibility because there are young girls and boys that are looking up to us, and social media is kind of that tool that can help us to get certain messages across, but also connecting with fans. They're really able to see another side of us besides just with our sport. So I think it's cool to have that connection. But yeah, I think for me, I take it on full force because it is a responsibility, and I love to have kind of that fan base or just that audience that really looks into me, and I want to be an example for kind of future generations. So even for now, I have other accounts, YesSheCanada on Twitter and Instagram, and it's just I made it to inspire, empower, and just really prepare those generations, both who want to excel on the field, but also off the field. And I think it's important as an athlete when you do have that large platform.
No, that's really good. Yeah, talk a little bit about that too. I saw that on social media. That's something that you started a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, so I started it a few years ago, and it's basically I want to do soccer clinics, kind of empowerment workshops, and just events where fans are able to interact with Olympic athletes or professional athletes,
Very
and
cool.
just see them for who they are, and they can ask questions and just have that insight on their lives. And I think it's important because social media is one way to do it, but also to have that in person kind of contact and communication. So
No,
I'm really excited about it.
no, absolutely. Well, we'll wrap up. Ashley, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we wish you all the best in the future with PSG and with Canada's national women's soccer team.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Well, you can. This has been Popternative. You can catch previous episodes of Popternative on YouTube, and popternative.com is our website with a lot more content. Please give this video a like and subscribe to us on YouTube. We greatly appreciate it. Until next time, this is Ashley Lawrence and Peter Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.